Bye, everybody.
Hello and welcome, travel advisors, to lesson number 5 of your sales certification program with our lovely Mike Archer. How you doing, Mike?
Hi, guys. Well, it's been kind of chaotic around here the last couple of days because we've had grandkids in because with Veterans Day, a lot of the schools are taking Friday, Monday, and Tuesday off. So we got some of the grandkids up here going home today. So it's been a lot of fun, a little chaotic, a little noisy, but lots of fun. So, hey, we are on page 20 of the manual, and we are now starting into the actual sales process. So in the managing your time process, we are in the asking questions phase. And this is kind of fun. And this is what's fun for the amiables and the analyticals, the left of the line people who like to ask questions and listen to people talk. On the challenging side for you drivers and expressives out there who like to talk and not ask questions. How's that? So anyway, what we're going to be doing, I want you to look down, and it's really important, especially for you, the right of the line people. I want you to look at the bottom sentence on page 20 of the opening paragraph. And I want everybody to highlight it. I want you to remember that you control the conversation by the questions you ask, not by the statements you make. You need to find out what it is that they like to have and what they need and what they want. And when I was selling yearbooks and mentoring some of the new people, I always likened it to if you've ever been on a road rally or a road race where there's a driver and a navigator. All right. Our goal, I live in Seattle, and our goal is to take a trip to Portland. And there's lots of ways to go to Portland. You can go down through the Yakima Valley and come in through the Columbia River Gorge. You can make a straight shot down I-5. You can take a couple of ferries and go over to the coast and come down 101 and come in through the mouth of the Columbia. It doesn't matter. I don't care where we go because I have the map. What I care about and how I determine which route we're going to take is by the questions I ask you. What do you want to see? What are the cool things that you want to do? So do you want to do some fishing? Do you want to go look at eagles? Do you want to go look at the wine country? It doesn't matter to me how we go to Portland. The idea is we're going to get to Portland. In this case, the Portland being, I've made a sale. So that's what your questions are designed to do, is to find out which way they want to go to Portland. And here's how we're going to do it. First and foremost, we are going to be using the conversational circle. This, just like last week, this is where the conversational circle comes into play. You ask a question, they make a statement, you give feedback, and then ask another question. So statement, feedback, question, statement, feedback, question. You are going to be doing this until you have bled them absolutely dry of everything you need to know in order to give them and make a sale to them and their families. Okay. Now, first thing that has to happen before you do that is called pre-call planning, right? Now, one of the things that is really important is that you understand we are finally into Jose's lessons, which his lesson number 2 is qualify, qualify, qualify. Now, there's also, Amanda, you're going to have to help me with this one. There used to be a whole series of training videos specifically geared to the questions you ask for travel. Okay. And Amanda, do we still have those? And if we do, can you tell them where those things live?
Yeah, so qualifying your clients, we have checklists on the Travel Cafe as well as trainings. We have the module in your back office under the travel team, the travel program, training program, and then also we have them under Jose's Wednesday training in the training hub of your Travel Cafe website.
Okay, so there's lots of resources in there to help you actually figure out my process, not my process, the sales process, and how you use specific questions in the travel industry that are geared to this. And once you see what types of questions that we're going to be asking, then you'll be able to plug in those travel specific questions that will help you. But the first thing we need to do is we have to figure out pre-call planning is nothing more than, what do we want to get done? What has to happen in this meeting? What is my goal? What am I there to accomplish? If you don't know that, don't go into the meeting, because then you're just wasting everybody's time. When you go in, have a clear plan in your head and hopefully on paper as to what you want to accomplish. All right, so once you do that, now you're going to set the agenda, and all of this for you is on page 20. Now you're going to set the agenda, and there's basically 4 elements to the agenda, and you're going to lay that out for them. All right, so the first thing is you're going to ask questions that what you need to know in order to help them plan their best trip. That's number 1. And then you're going to tell them, once you're done that, you're going to tell them, okay, now that I have this information, this is what's going to happen as we move forward. And then the third one is there anything else I'm going to need to know? And this is critical. All right. And we're going to revisit this when we do the sales summary. So you need to, anything else, this is the point where you bleed them dry. Remember, if I haven't told you before, I always went into a sales call with nothing but red flags in my head. And those red flags were all questions that I needed answers to. And as I started going through the process, those red flags would turn to yellow, which means I knew some things, but I needed more. Till finally, they all turned to green flags, and I go, okay, I now know what I need to do in order to have a qualified person listen to what I have to present to them. Okay. Now, here's the key one. I want you to underline this. You need to tell them how much time you've allotted to do this. So if it's going to take 20 minutes, tell them, hey, said, I'm going to take about 20 minutes to go through all of this. And then we'll talk about, what our next steps are. And they might say, well, gosh, they go, okay, that's fine. Or they might say, God, man, I'm really pressed for time. I've only got like 10 or 15. And you go, okay, no problem. We'll get as much done as we can today. We'll set a time to come back and do it again. So don't ever worry about the time issue, because remember, your goal is to get a whole series of incremental yeses. So if they can't do it in your 20-minute allotment, that's actually good for you, because that gives you a second chance to get in and talk to them a little bit more, gives you a little bit more knowledge about how to work with them and apply your versatility stuff. Okay, that's it. That's all there is to that. So now, once we've set that, we're going to do what's called a bridge question. And the bridge question is nothing more than getting to know them a little bit more, but finding a little bit more about their travel interests. I've given you an example down here, and it's just, before we begin, let me ask you about, and then just ask something that's general. It's actually a hypothetical question, which is the first question that we're talking about. So the first one, this is the hypothetical in the bridge statement. Before we begin, let me ask you about, where have you been in the past? Or before we begin, let me ask you about some of the good things that happened on your trips, and maybe some of the things where you're a little discouraged or a little frustrated. Let's talk about all of those things. All it's designed to do is break the ice to get into the actual selling and asking of the questions. All right. Hypothetical questions usually start with before we begin, or if you could. It always starts with the phrase if. All right, I mean the word if. If you could do this, if you could do that, if you had an unlimited budget, what would you like to do? Things like that. And I've got some samples down here in the right-hand column of page 20. And again, remember, these are my questions. You need to fit this to the art of selling, which is your personality. And I'm always going to hammer on this, because I don't want you to be me. That's going to frustrate a lot of you, especially those of you who are a little bit faster paced. Every time we do something that's in the manual, always remember you need to build this to your own personality. Okay, so one of the things I'd like you to do after this is anytime that we're doing this, I'm used to teaching this in front of a group of people where we stop and do role playing and we write these out. We do things like this. So what I'd like you to do after we're finished here is just to help get yourself ready is to start doing some of these things, get them on paper, practice them. That way it seems a lot more natural and not so forced when you go out and actually do your calling. And by the way, these things work equally well. Those of you that are isolated and you don't have a big audience where you live, if you're like that and you're in a rural development, Zoom calls, video calls, anything that's where you're face to face with them, that works. All right, it doesn't have to be face to face in person. You can be face to face on Zoom or whatever digital media is out there. Zoom's what I know because I'm an old guy and I'm not all that digitally smart. If I didn't have Amanda, I'd be toast. So so now those are the hypotheticals. So now the next one, these are the ones, the non-directive, or they're called open questions, non-directive, global questions. These are the questions that are designed to elicit answers, not just yes or no. All right. So, and the best ones to use, you've all heard the 5 journalism question, the who, what, where, when, why, and how. The how ones are really valuable. How much, how often, how many. You can do a lot with the how questions. But the 5 journalism questions are the ones that are going to get you the most answers and the most detailed answers for what the things you want to do. And again, on page 21, I've written out some examples for you to take a look at. How do you feel about your current income as it relates to your travel plans? And keep in mind, a lot of people are hesitant to talk about the money question. And we're going to get into that in a couple of minutes. These questions are designed to elicit a lot of response, not just yes or no answers. All right. So they're general questions versus specific. Now, one of the things to pay attention to is on page 21. Remember, I talked last week about the conversational circle and how it talks about telling tension and lock on, lock out. These are right here. This is really good for us to pay attention to as well, because especially right of the line people, as people start telling you what it is they want to do and where they want to go and how much they have to spend, our brains automatically start selling in our heads. And this is what you have to avoid, because the tendency is they make a statement, you sell to that. They make a statement, you sell to that. And that's very awkward and it's time consuming, and a lot of stuff gets lost in the process. You have to avoid this like the plague. And the reason for that is our telling tensions go up because we know how we can help them, but we have to delay that until we have all of the information. And then when we make the presentation, our telling tensions get relieved, and then the shoe gets put on the other foot, where your clients' telling tensions are going to go up because they start to get excited about some of the things you're telling them, and they want to talk to you how they're going to use what you're showing them. So the telling tensions here, this is when the telling that starts to go up. All right. So that's why you're balancing that. That's why you have to do statement, feedback, feed them another question. Don't do statement, feedback, sell. All right. Don't do that. That'll derail a sales call faster than just about anything. Okay, so these are the ones that have the most value when you're starting out to get the information. Now, the next questions are, remember that little phrase, do I know enough? This is where the elaboration questions come in. They're down at the bottom and the left on 21. So elaborations are nothing more than, wow, that sounds interesting. Tell me more. Or, wow, that's cool. Then what happened? Follow up with getting more information, especially if that you've got that yellow flag in, but you still need a little bit more to get that green flag for you. This is where the elaboration questions come in. They get that extra information out there. My uncle, who was a salesperson, he was a marketing guy and a sales teaching guy for Shell Oil internationally, and he traveled on planes all the time. And he would tell me stories about, he would get to know people sitting next to him on the plane, and his entire part of the conversation was, wow, cool, interesting, tell me more. And that was it. They never found out anything about him, but by the time they walked off the plane, he had their entire lives in his pocket. That's what you're going to do. You are just going to sit there and be a sponge and absorb and absorb and absorb, and you're going to write notes down. When we get into the next lesson, I'm going to show you there's some forms that you're going to take with you and print out in lesson 6. Not only forms that I've developed, but there's also forms that Amanda has, or not Amanda, but Archer Travel has developed, and Amanda can tell you where they are. All right, so elaboration are tell me more, tell me more. All right. The next one are reflective. All right, so the reflective questions, let's say that your telling tension has gone up, and for whatever reason, you've zoned out and you've gone into lock on, lock out, and you haven't heard a word they've said for the last 10 seconds. So, and it's happened. It's happened to all of us. It's part of who we are. So the reflective questions are nothing more than reflecting back to them what you think they've said. So you use it. It says, okay, I'm not sure I understood what you said. Can you tell me, can you repeat that for me? So you're reflecting back to them. Or if they're making, remember we talked last week about acknowledgement. A reflective question is actually a form of acknowledgement. And I've got an example here. Evolution Travel is a multi-level marketing organization. It's a quite good one. It's probably the best one I've ever seen, because nobody has resources to give to you like Evolution and Archer. But people who have had negative experience with MLMs, and let's say it's a friend of yours and you think that they could benefit from Evo, they might say, I've never had any good experiences with Evolution Travel. And you go, so all you could do is reflect it back to them and said, what kinds of experiences? I'm sorry to hear that. So you can do that. Or if somebody says, a really good one is if somebody says your price is too high, what is the natural thing that we want to do? We want to explain to them why the price is not too high. And that's death, because you don't really know why they think the price is too high. So you reflect it back to them. Simply say, if they say, hey, the price is too high here, you go, too high? And just be quizzical, ask them. That invites a response for them. Well, yeah, I don't get this, I don't get this, I don't get this. And then you go, I understand now. Let's review this, and I'll go through this when you're in your presentation. Let's review this, and I don't be, if you screwed up something, which is going to happen, don't be afraid to throw yourself under the bus. The key here is not to be defensive. You cannot help them with any objections on their part if you don't know where the objection really lies. If the objection is too high, you have to find out why they think it's too high. And then you can go on from there. And you don't necessarily have to address it right here, but you could address it down the road. All right. Another reflective question is, why is that? Why do you believe that? And it's important. There's a difference between why and why is that. And the guy that taught me sales training called it the naked why. It's almost like somebody says the price is too high. Why? It's like pointing a gun. Why? But if you soften it up and go, well, Why is that? And just be quizzical, be curious, be polite, but you need to find out the answer as to why they think that it's too high. So that's how reflective questions can help you in this passage. All right. So that's what the why is that. And then finally, go turn to page 22. These are called the closed questions. These are the ones that you want to ask at the end of the sales call. And some of these are actually closed. They're closed questions because I only invite yes or no answers. All right. So your original thing is, do I have enough information to make an intelligent proposal? And if your answer to that is yes, then you start asking direct questions. And they said, so you're going to do a summary statement. So we've talked about this, and this. Is that correct? Yes. Great. Okay. You've told me that you have this kind of a budget and you want to do certain things with that budget. And those things are this, and this. Is that, are we on the same page here? No, we're not. Oh, what? Okay, I'm sorry. I guess I missed something. Let's go back and explore that. What are the things that we still need to talk about so that I'm on the same page with you so I can make an intelligent proposal? All right. So if you get yeses, remember, those are the little incremental yeses that move you toward the big sale. All right. So then what you want to do is you want to, sorry. So my phone's ringing. It's distracting. So what we want to do is we want to ask those questions that are direct questions that get us yes or no answers. If they're yes, we move forward. If they're no, we go back and revisit it until we get that yes answer. That's what they're designed to do. And they're also designed for the closing questions like, wow, sounds like you're really excited. Are you ready to get started? Or in my case, I'd say, wow, you're really pumped up about this. Should I order the kit of supplies to come into the school? And they go, yeah. Well, I just asked them a closing question. If they say they want the supplies into the school, that means they got to sign a contract in order to do it. So you can blend in those closed-in questions along with closing questions. They kind of go hand in hand. Okay, so those are the types of questions that you can ask, and you can go into the really key ones here. Now, here's the critical part. These are the 3 most important questions. And if you do not ask these questions, you do not have a qualified person sitting in front of you. All right. It's over on 22. Pay attention to this, wonderful people, because it's on the test. All right. This is critical. This is of all the questions you ask, these 3 questions are the most critical to you getting a sale. First question you ask is people. Are you talking to the people that have the ability to make that decision? All right. And a lot of times, if you're dealing with a family, you might be talking to one of the spouses, but both spouses are going to be making the decision. So when you can intersperse these particular 3 questions anywhere in the conversation. It doesn't have to go boom, boom, boom. It can be anywhere in the conversation, but you have to ask them. So the first one is, the way I always phrased it was I would go, in addition to yourself, who else is going to take an interest in this decision? You need to get the answer to that because you need to get all those people in there. You do not, if they say, well, I'm the one that makes the decision, my husband or my wife does whatever I tell them. Well, what they become now is what I call the gatekeeper. You are relying on them to sell what you just sold to them. And how often do you think is going to happen where they accurately reflect what you told them to the other decision maker? You've got to get, if it's at all possible, you've got to get them all together, if it's a big group meeting like a family reunion and you got 4 or 5 people involved in the process, you need to set up a Zoom call. Okay. It's really, really important that you do that. All right. So people, who are the decision makers? And again, these are my words, but you got to use them for yours. The next one is time. You need to know when they're going to make the decision. So let's say you're working on a complicated sale for a family reunion that's 4, 5, 6 months out. Well, you want them to make that decision as quickly as possible, because there's a lot of planning and organizing and getting everything the information and getting everybody signed up for the cruises and the flights and the motels and the tours and all that stuff. That's going to take time. So you need to find out when it is they're going to make this decision. And also, and Jose is always pounding on you, a lot of these travel specials are finite. They might be a 1-week special. And if they want to make that decision 2 weeks out, you've got an issue that you're going to have to deal with. So who's making the decision? When are they going to make that decision? And if it's not conducive to helping you get that sale, you're going to have to talk about, okay, you can make that decision, but this particular package that we're talking about is probably not going to be available. So we need to send, can we adjust that a little bit? Or if it's hard and fast, so let's say that it's now close to Thanksgiving and they want to go for Easter, you can say, okay, let me put this together, and then let's get together for a meeting and talk about what it is and finalize all the details. And then we can come together and we can make final decisions down the road. You're going to have to play this one by ear, because you're going to have to figure out what it is that they want to do and when they want to do it. And then finally, you have to go with money. You've got to find out how much money they have to spend. All right. And this is where people get reluctant, because they think if they give you a number, you're going to bump up against that number no matter what. And this is where the trust issue comes in, is where you've got to say, okay, I want to build you the best package possible. And I am not going anywhere as far as money goes. I want you to get the biggest bang for your buck. And what always helped me was, and again, this is me, I said, look, I could sell you a really good package and I could charge you a lot of money and I could make a lot of commission one time, and you're not going to use me anymore because you don't trust my decision making, or you think that I'm abusing your money issue, or you're just getting the biggest bang for your buck on your commission, but you're not helping me get the biggest bang for mine. And I would say, you're right, I could do that, but then what's the advantage to me? I'm in this for the long haul. I don't want you one time. I want you to become a satisfied client that's going to use me again and again and again because you trust me. And by the way I grow my business is through your trust and you referring me to other people. So yes, I could do that, but I'm not going to, because that's not good for me. And so that's where your trust issues come in, where you have to show them, because remember, you're trying to show them why it's better to do business with you than for anybody else out there. And that's the key to all of this. Why are you the best, their best option? It's because you have their best interests at heart. All right. So people, time, money. If you don't have those three things in place, you are nothing more than a storyteller, and you don't want to be that. Remember, we can go to Portland a whole bunch of ways. These 3 questions help us get there. Okay. Now, this is, if you remember, this is the science. This is the process of getting to the sale. We've asked our questions. So now what you want to do is you go, okay, do I know enough? In your head, you're going, do I know enough? If the answer is no, you go back and ask questions. If the answer is yes, then that's where you stop the conversation, and I'll tell you why in a minute. All right. On page 23, I want you to highlight this summary statement. And then somewhere up in here, I want you to draw an arrow, and I want you to write, physically write this down. Is there anything else? In your head, do I know enough? To them, is there anything else we need to talk about? If the answer is no, do I know enough? No, I don't. Is there anything else? Ask questions. If the answer finally is there anything else? And they say no, so they go, your answer is yes. Now you stop the conversation. You say, great. I've got all the information I need to make an intelligent proposal that I think you and your family will like. It's going to take me about 2 days to put this together. So today's Tuesday, it's 1:30. How about if we get back together, say Thursday at 1:30, or if there's other people involved, let's take some time and get everybody on board where we can have a meeting where I can walk everybody through this. How does that sound to you? That sounds great. Great. When's a good time to do that? Okay. And then you set up the time, you get your proposal in ready to go, and then you come back and you set up that next appointment. Again, that's not a little incremental yes. That's a big incremental yes, because you've earned their trust. They want to hear what you have to say. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about the 2 hidden keys to your success. The biggest reason you'll lose a sale is you never, ever leave the timing of any decision up to the client in this lifetime. If you leave the decision up to them, it's not going to happen. They get distracted. They forget about it. You have to let them know you're interested, and you are going to be pleasantly persistent in asking them. Some of these deals are finite. The ship is this is a very popular cruise, and we need to have a lot of rooms. We don't have a lot of time to spend here. We need to get together and finalize a lot of these details. When's a good time for us to do that? It doesn't matter how you phrase it, but it always ends up with, when can we meet to get all this completed? Okay. You never leave the timing of anybody up to them. So the other key, we talked about this in lesson 1, is the 5 golden minutes. This is nothing more than designed to help you improve your selling skills. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? What did I miss? If you do the summary statement properly and ask them if there's anything else, you should not have to put anything in this line right here. Did you get a referral? It depends on whether that's an appropriate time to ask that question. And then did you send a thank you note, maybe a phone call, an email, Instagram, however you want to do it. I would probably save the written thank you notes to when the selling is concluded. Either they purchased from you or they didn't purchase from you. And we'll talk about that next week when we get into, or at the end of the lesson in 2 weeks, when we talk about how you conclude the sale, whether you got one or whether you didn't get one. So if you haven't done it already, what I would like you to do is open up a Word doc and just write these questions in and leave some spaces. Take it with you, or keep it handy, and just fill that information out. Because if you write it down, it goes into your brain. It's how we learn. Remember, if I write it down, it's physical. If I'm listening to my own conversation, I can tell what I did right and wrong, what I could have done better. It all works together, but it all works with all of our senses. And this 5 golden minutes, this is a fabulous way to improve your selling skills. So, ta-da! That's it. So we actually got through in a goodly amount of time. So if you have any questions, give me a call, send me an email. I'm happy. I've been getting a lot of inquiries on or getting a lot of people that have completed the test. And when you do the test, I always make notes on the questions that you missed, so that you have any questions, you can get back to me. And I have a couple of people that struggled on some specific lessons. So we've been going back and forth to help them understand, the things that they missed. I'm always available. So if there's any questions, Amanda, does anybody have any questions in the chat room?
Yeah, no questions at the moment, but if they come up with questions, they can reach out to you, like you said, at the email mike@archertravel.com or give you a call at your phone number on the screen.
That's it. So next week, people, if you want to get ahead of the game, we're in lesson 6, which is going to be on page 24. And then right the week of Thanksgiving, we'll finish up. So again, thanks for being with me. I love talking to you guys. I wish I could see you in person, but I'll see you digitally, sort of, next week. See you later.